Hello, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I'm your host, Garrett King. On today's episode, we're going to branch off of the information that I presented in the last episode, because the more I started looking at the information, the more I began to realize there was a lot more there to be revealed. Yeah, a lot to unpack. So we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we do, there's just a couple of things that I want to address. The first one is concerning a comment that someone left on the YouTube channel, stating that I manipulated the numbers in the last presentation so that they would form a pentagram. Now, I was irritated by the comment because, well, for a couple of reasons. One, I'm doing all of this research and legwork and finding out all of this information, and I'm coming to you guys and presenting it to you in a very open format. I'm keeping nothing hidden from you guys, and every time something new comes along, I present it to you, okay? And I'm doing the research. I encourage every single one of you to do your own research as well. Because if this person had literally spent 2 minutes doing research, they would have come across the same information that I did and would have known in an instant that I was not manipulating numbers or just pulling these numbers out of my ass. And again, that's all it takes is just two seconds of research. If they had just gone in and typed in divine triangle, it would have led them down this path to this information that I'm going to show you, proving that I'm not manipulating any numbers. And like I said, I encourage every single one of you to do your own research. Don't just sit here and let me spoon feed you information and then get pissed off at me or try to discredit me because you don't like the way that something tastes or you're not able to swallow the bite that you just chewed off. Okay? Do your own research, because everything that I'm presenting here, every single one of you could find and come to the same conclusions simply following the same path that I've gone down. Okay. So, and I don't mean that to come off sounding bitchy or anything, but it just irritated me because this person was just making an assumption that that's what I did. And it's like, who does that? I mean, that's no different than walking down the street and seeing someone on the other side of the street that looks completely different. They're dressed completely different than you would. Their hair and makeup is completely different. And you're going to sit there and judge that person just based off of how they look without even getting to know the person. That person could be a wonderful person, but you're just basing or making these assumptions off of how they look. And that's what I feel like this person did. They just based this assumption off of how something appeared without doing any of the research to find out on their own. So that's all I'm saying. Just do your own research. The other thing I want to address is that I appreciate 100%, absolutely 100% appreciate all of you who come to my defense when someone says something negative or whatever. I appreciate it. And I don't want any of you to think that I don't. I really, really do. The only thing that I ask is that if you're going to comment on someone else's comment or comment to that person about something they said, that you just do so with respect. You know, don't be nasty. Don't be hateful. Don't try to ridicule that person. Don't try to make that person feel small. Because that's not what my channel is about. Okay. It's about us coming together, me revealing information and us coming together as a collective, trying to make some sort of sense out of all this information. It's not a place for you guys to bicker and fight with one another. I don't want that, you know? And if I see comments where, you know, someone's being nasty or mean, I'm going to remove the comment, even if the intention wasn't there, you know, but it still comes off that way. I'm going to remove the comment because I just don't want anyone to be made to feel small or like, or whatever, you know? I mean, it's one thing if people are going to come on the channel and badmouth me or, you know, whatever. I mean, that says more about that person than it does about me, but you know, that is what it is. But just don't do it to one another. It's just, there's no sense in it, and it doesn't solve anything, and it doesn't do anything except, you know, make you look like an ass, you know, and we need to be kind and nice to one another because we're all in this together, all of us. So yeah, just, that's all I ask. Just be kind with your comments. If someone says something and, you know, you can prove them wrong without being a dick about it, you know? That's all I'm going to say. Just be kind to one another. Okay. So let's jump into this. All right. So in the last episode, I demonstrated how from what is known as the divine triangle, we can get the shape of the pentagram. And again, this is just going off of the person's comment saying that I manipulated these numbers, and I'm going to prove 100% that nothing was manipulated. So simply, any of you, just go on the internet and do a search for divine triangle. Take 2 minutes and do a search, and you'll eventually come across this information here, which I've just linked to this Wikipedia page. This is not a fake page. Any of you can go on the web and find it. And it's called the Golden Triangle, Mathematics in parentheses. And I want you to look right over here, because this also not only is known as the divine triangle, it has, people give it many different names, but one of the names that they give it is the golden gnomon. And as you can clearly see here on the screen, the corner angles are 36 degrees and the top angle is 108. That is exactly what I have here. I did not just pull these numbers, again, out of thin air, out of my ass, just making them up on a whim. None of that. Okay? This is simple mathematics, folks. So, yeah. Okay. Now, one of the other questions that came up was someone wanted to know why I rotated this one by 288 degrees. They're like, you know, why would you take each corner and multiply that times 8 to get 288? Well, if you remember, I asked you guys to look at this as though it was like a pyramid. But we don't even have to do that. We can simply arrive at this by looking at just the one face. Okay. And I'm going to show you. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. And the question was, Why did I rotate it 288 degrees? And, how did I come up with that number? All right, so I'm going to make sure that's sitting right on top of itself. Now, there are several different ways that we can arrive at this number. Doing it the way that I suggested, by taking 36 times 8, if we're viewing it as a pyramid. So 4-sided pyramid, 36 degrees in each corner would give us the number 8. So 36 times 8 would give us 288. But we don't even have to do that. We can just look at these numbers. So let's look at 108 minus 36 is 72. Keep in mind that the 7 and a 2 reduces to 9. 3 and 6 is 9, and 108 reduces to 9. Okay, so 108 minus 36 is 72, and also 36 plus 36 is 72. Okay. Now that I have this copied, so I have one sitting on top of the other. And I'm just going to come over here and show you. I'm going to put in, because we have to look at this as above, so below. Okay. So that's why I'm doing it twice, with a positive and a negative number. So if we put in negative or minus 72, see how it automatically changes the number to 288. Well, why is that? Well, because anytime you rotate something, you're rotating it around a center point. And so a complete rotation of that would give you a 360-degree rotation. So simply taking 360 degrees and subtracting 72 gives you 288. Okay, that's where the number comes from. And, it's not necessary to view it as a pyramid. Like I said, we can get the same equivalent all from just one side of this triangle. All right, so 288. But that's because we put in minus 72. We're subtracting 72 from 360 gives us 288. And if we copy that triangle again, rotate the new one, because remember we had a positive and a negative. So we're going to do positive this time, 72 degrees, and boom, we're right back to the pentagram shape that we originally got. Okay. Now, not only that, but this original divine triangle, the golden gnomon, is derived from a pentagon. Okay. Because, well, let me get rid of these. If you look right here, you can see where the triangle is formed, where the sides come out. And if we drew angles down here and up here and over here, we would again have a pentagram. Okay. No numbers have been manipulated. Okay. They're the exact same numbers. Now, to manipulate these numbers to form a pentagram, that to me, that suggests me sitting here going, okay, you have to take the number 36 and now add 12 to it, and then subtract 5 and then multiply it by 6 and do this and do that. That would be manipulation. Okay. That would be, yeah, you're adding all these nonsense numbers that, where in the hell are you coming up with those to arrive at this conclusion? But I'm not doing any of that. I'm using the numbers that you are clearly seeing on the screen. All right. Okay. Let's start looking at this a lot closer and unpacking this. Okay. So we have the pentagram. as I started looking at this and diving into it more, so much started just unpacking itself. So as you can see, I have this downward triangle highlighted, just the sides in red, and the sides of the divine triangle or the golden gnomon just highlighted in red. Okay, so I just want those pieces. Okay. So I'm going to copy those and I'm going to put them over here just like so. And what I'm going to do is I have a line here and I'm going to put this point so that it touches this line down here. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it down so that each of its corners here are touching the line. And we're going to look at this as the as above, so below. So this is the above. And we're going to flip it to the below. Okay. Which is 180 degrees. Keep in mind, 8 and 1 is 9. We're chasing that number of the power of 9, the ruling number. Okay. And we're going to take this one and do the same thing. Whoops. Does this symbol look familiar to anyone? What about now? We're looking at the Masonic symbol. Okay. And you're going to start to see, folks, how this is all connected in the most unique and bizarre way. All right. Now, keep in mind that the highest order of the Mason is a 33-degree Mason. Let's just flip that back and ungroup. And I want you to just look at the angle of this line is 33 degrees. Now we had 36, but that's because we had a bottom line going. And so it's showing the angle of degree if there was the bottom line, but I don't have the bottom line here. This is just the angle in which this is slanted. Okay. 33 degrees. We get the Masonic symbol. 33 is the highest level of the Masonic order. Okay. You see connections? Okay. Now what I want to do is I just want to take this portion and we're going to move it over here. And I'm going to paste it in. Now, I have, again, no idea where these thoughts, these ideas come to or come from to get me to try doing these different things. Okay. It's just these thoughts, like, I don't know where they come from or how they pop into my head. But they do. Something told me, but I didn't hear a voice. It was just a thought to look back at this number here. 121. Now, if you've been watching all these videos, you know that this number has come up quite a bit. Not really understanding why, other than the fact that I was connecting it to a sort of connection of the number 37 being the 21st prime and 73 being the 21st prime, and that this is possibly showing those two together, okay? And then also the fact that all of the numbers that were generated, not all of them, but the majority of them, when you start at the end, take the last two numbers, add the next two, and the next two, they all equal 121. I don't know for a fact if that does that all the way through, all the way up to the 100 billion or not. I haven't gone that far. I just did enough to see that, yes, there seems to be this repeating pattern of this taking place. So with that in mind, I took the number 121 and I thought, what if we put that in as 121 degrees? We get this. Doesn't look like much to most people. But when you think about symbols and how symbols are used, how they are hidden in plain sight, I don't think it's a coincidence that we get the same symbol in the NASA's logo for National Aeronautics and Space Administration. See this? Most people refer to this as the forked tongue. Okay. It's essentially what we have right here. And notice how rotating it 121 degrees is putting it at the same angle in which they have theirs. Excuse me. So, yeah, pretty interesting that that would take place. But the connections are going to get deeper here, folks. So remember, I rotated this one 121 degrees. So let's just go ahead and put it back at its starting point of 0. And I'm going to duplicate it, set it right on top of itself. I'm going to rotate the top one 121 degrees. And the bottom one minus 121. Or whoops. What did I do wrong? There we go. So minus 121. Let's just do that again, so nobody questions what I'm doing. So here it is. It's back at a 0 value. And we're going to put in minus 121. Okay. We get this. This may look familiar to some people, probably not all, and that's fine. But I'm going to show you where this is going to start getting odd. Okay, so I'm copying that. I grouped them so I can move them together at the same time, resize it, rotate it if I need it, all at the same time. What we're going to look at next is known as the sigil of Lucifer. And again, here's that NASA symbol with the forked tongue. And you can see it's at the same 121 degree angle. But let's paste in this. And let's just look at how things line up. Okay. There it is, resized, and how it perfectly fits the sigil of Lucifer. Now, here's some odd connections. The V on the sigil is often looked at as being a reference to vanadium, which vanadium is a chemical element with the symbol V and the atomic number of 23. Now, vanadium in Gematria using the Jewish cipher gives the value of 9 8, 5. But so does Jesus find the zodiac proof. I am named true prophet of God. A matrix is a proof of a God. God is the alphabet and the number. Again, we're talking gematria. Reformat the matrix. The days shortened. I decode entire matrix sign. Now, we've looked at these before, because going back, I already talked about all of those when I was looking at the gematria connections. When I took the numbers and split them. And I want you to focus on something here really quickly. Keep this in the back of your mind for just a few minutes. One of the phrases that came up was the sigil of Saturn. Okay. Just store that back in the back of your mind for just a moment, because we're going to come back to this, the sigil of Saturn. But I already showed the connections with Jesus having the value of 985 and all of the gematria phrases that were generated from that number. All right. Now, why vanadium? I have no idea. Going to have to research that even more. But for those who don't think that there's a connection between this and this, the NASA symbol, well, let's take this symbol and we're simply going to rotate it 90 degrees. Again, 9. We're focusing on the number 9. Or we're not focusing on it, but we're chasing that 9, the ruling number of 9. So I've rotated it like this. And what this is depicting, as I'm going to show you here, is the sun, the earth, and the moon, and how the sun's light, the angles of the light hitting the moon and the earth during an eclipse. Now, remember, we talked about the 19-year cycle with the summer solstice solar eclipses that are taking place. I think starting in 1982, they've been going 19 years. We'll have one in 2058, and then we won't have another one for nearly 200 years. Okay. Now, if you think that I'm just making this up, well, why does it come from NASA's own visual here of the sun, the earth? You can clearly see we're looking at the triangle, which is this triangle. It hits a center point. The moon would be here. We have the earth, just like we have here. And you can clearly see as well how the Masonic symbol fits in quite nicely. Okay? So again, not just pulling this shit out of thin air. It all connects. It all matches up. Now, so we have that symbol. Oh, shit. Crap. What'd I do? Here we go. Okay. Okay, so we have this symbol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset these back to 0. And this one back to 0. So that they're perfectly sitting on top of one another. And as I've referenced many times throughout these presentations, we talk about the as above, so below. I'm going to simply take one of these and flip it 180 degrees. Next, I'm just going to take a line. do about that long. And I'm going to increase the thickness of it to match the others and make it red. And I'm just simply going to put it right there. Okay. So this is like the foundation for the above and the below. Okay. So this is the dividing line. Going to take this symbol and group it together. And I'm going to rotate it 135 degrees. Now look at the number 1, 3, and 5. It reduces to 9 again. 5 and 3 is 8. 8 and 1 is 9. Okay. So 135 degrees, hit enter, and it looks like this on the screen. Now, going back to this where we had the sigil of Saturn, right? That's what we're looking at here, the sigil of Saturn. If we copy this and move it over here, folks, you cannot tell me that that is simply coincidence. It lines up perfectly. Perfectly. Okay? So, as you can see, this is all connected. And for those of you who have been watching the videos from the very beginning and have been watching this unfold, you have seen that these numbers are showing things and revealing things in so many different directions. We've unpacked the sigil of Saturn, the sigil of Lucifer. We've looked at astrology and the zodiac and how it all perfectly lines up. We've looked at the Vedic square. We've looked at just a ton of things being revealed. And I had this thought the other day, and I'm not saying that it is, okay? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, what if? What if this 1111 matrix code is the code breaker? Because again, we've seen how it's lifted the veil and how we see all of this stuff coming together and connecting. Connecting from two numbers, 1111 and 333. That is what has started all of this, unpacked all of this, those two numbers. And it goes to show too that if all of this is connected, then everything on this planet, you, me, we're connected. You know, I'm sitting here in my office in Oklahoma, and I'm thinking, there's no connections between me and somebody in China or Russia or Denmark. But I bet if someone actually took the time and did the research through ancestral history, they would find that, yes, there are connections. You might have to go really, really, really far back. And we may not even have the records to go that far back, but I think it would show that yeah, there is a connection that can be made. And that we are all connected. And that's why I was saying earlier to be kind, be nice to one another, because you're no different than I am, and I'm no different than you are. And we are all in this together. And people need to learn to start coming together as a whole and stop thinking about ourselves, stop being selfish and just thinking about ourselves. Yeah. Don't want to get off on too much of a tangent in that in that respect, but yeah, I think it's clearly obvious that, you know, these connections cannot be denied. And, you know, yeah, I'll just leave it there. So, all right, folks. Trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to talk about very quickly. Yeah, I think I've covered it so far. And again, you know, I want to make it very clear with all of you that, you know, don't just take everything that I say as face value. Do the research. And, you know, if I show something and I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I have no desire to sit here and manipulate things in order to get some sort of end result. Okay? Because I have no ulterior motives in this at all, other than to try and understand why all of this is coming to me the way that it has. Because, you know, I've been very open about how all of this started with, you know, seeing the numbers. I've been very open with just unpacking it all for you guys and showing the connections that I'm making. And, you know, there's nothing to hide. I every time I come across something new or, you know, interesting or whatever, I want to give that information to you, to the world, to see that this is right there. It's in plain sight for those who take the time to look, listen, and hit my mic again. But yeah, it's just the information's there. And don't just take my word for it. Do the research so that you yourself can have a better understanding of it, or try to have a better understanding of it. You know, I'm not sitting here saying that I understand all of this, because I still want to know what the end game, what is all of this pointing towards, or is this simply it, that it's showing these deep connections, you know, and these symbols, you know, just like this pentagram, you know, people look at this symbol as being negative. And like I said in the last video, you know, is it really, or is it just a means of, you know, keeping us in the dark by hiding the information wrapped up in fear? And again, this is just a symbol. It's really about the intent behind the symbol, because anybody could sit here and let's just do this real quick. Anybody could sit here and look at this symbol that I'm going to put it here on the screen. Okay. We are all familiar with this symbol. Okay. And when someone sits here and takes this symbol and does, well, shit, screwed it up. Let's group them together. And does this, turning it upside down, they're trying to make something negative out of it. And that is their intent, is to make something negative out of something that is supposed to be positive. So again, have an open mind. Don't just look at this and immediately freak out. We're trying to understand, or I am anyway, trying to understand the deeper meaning behind all of this and find this hidden truth. And I think there's a hidden truth there, because the way that you see that all of this stuff is connected has to have been designed by something that we simply can't comprehend. I mean, in order to put it all connected in this way. But it also leads me to think that, those in our ancient past were very aware of this information. People have been unpacking this information or have been aware of this information for a very long time, but they have encoded this information in this way so that it will not get lost, so that it's always there for those who have the eyes to see it. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for today, folks. And again, like I said, anytime something new comes along, the first thing I'm going to do is look at everything, make sure it connects, and deliver it to you, because like I said, I have nothing to hide. I have no ulterior motives here other than trying to get to the root of all of this. And that's it. So, all right, that's enough for today. So enjoy, and look forward to hearing your thoughts. And yeah, so we'll go from there. But until next time, I hope everyone takes care and has a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.